Hey everybody, welcome back to Cool Bike Projects. Today I have a very special guest with me. This is my good friend Milton, who's here to talk to us about our very first collaboration video. So Milton, why don't you go introduce yourself to us?
Hi, I'm Milton Beasley, and this is my family, Ted, William, and Elizabeth. Rusty, thank you so much for having us.
You bet, it's my pleasure. So for those who have never seen this before, Cool Bike Projects is kind of moving into a new direction where we want to collaborate with regular everyday folks who have an old bike they want to fix up, or in Milton's case, a set of family bikes so they can go on an adventure together. So Milton, why don't you go and tell us a little bit about the adventure you have planned?
All right, so we're hoping to go on this bike trail called the Hiawatha. It's up on the border of Idaho and Montana on top of the Continental Divide. And it goes down an old set of train tracks and through some tunnels and across some bridges. And it just sounds like a really fun, family-friendly ride. So I'm sure like the rest of you, we've been a little cooped up in the house and itching to get out. And I thought, I need to make some better memories with my kids. And what better way to make some memories than go on a bike road trip? So we're the Beasleys, and these are our friends, the Hansons. We asked to help us guide us down the trail, and this is our adventure of the Hiawatha.
Awesome. After we've actually filmed this, Milton's going to go and ride with his family, and we'll get to see some pictures from that, and we'll edit this all together with the magic of editing. So, Milton, thanks for doing this with me. It's been fun to collaborate, and I look forward to seeing these bikes come together.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you and your willingness to help us get these bikes together so we can put them on the road again and make more adventures.
My niece is famous for talking about truth bombs. And in this episode, I'd like to share with you a few of my own truth bombs about working on bikes. For many of you that have come to appreciate the restoration of older bicycles, the idea of working on low-end bikes probably doesn't sound that exciting. But my first truth bomb is that most bike shops make a living working on department store bikes and bikes that cost under $300. Another truth is that most bike mechanics get their start by working on bikes that came from Walmart. Huffy's, Roadmaster, Next, you name it. If it came from Walmart, a lot of bike shops have had more of these in their repair stands than they have high-end bikes. I'm a little old school in saying this, but I think that's a good thing for a mechanic that's learning how to work on a bike. Because the truth is, if you can learn how to dial in caliper brakes and adjust hubs and bearing surfaces early on, you'll be that much better mechanic when you have a chance to work on something that's nice. So years ago, I ran a mobile bicycle repair business where in the summer times when I wasn't teaching, I would travel around to bike races, road bike tours, all kinds of places to fix bikes. And more often than not, I would have a pile of bikes waiting for me with a small window of time to repair them. So I found over time that there was a quicker, more efficient way of organizing what needed to be done with each bike. And so as I work on Milton's bikes, hopefully I can share a couple of those steps with you that will help you in your own process to make sure you haven't skipped anything, but also just to speed up your own process. So the first thing I do when looking at a bike is a quick evaluation. I'll spin the wheels, look at the brake pads, rotate the cranks backwards and forwards, and feel for any play in the bearings. Even in the headset where the handlebar turns, if there's excessive play or grinding, it's a sign that the bike could have a lot of miles on it and may need more intensive repairs. Next, if the bike needs a wash, I'll go ahead and do a quick scrub down, looking for any damage to the frame, cables, bolts, etc. Once the bike is clean, I'll go ahead and adjust the bearings in the crankset, in the hubs, and in the headset. Even on newer bikes that have sealed cartridge bearings, it's the same process of looking for play and adjusting or tightening things to the proper specs. When it's time to true the wheels, there is a whole thought process on spoke tension, straightening the rims, and even replacing spokes. Suffice it to say, the wheels should spin round and true, and not have too much play in the spokes. Just before you put the wheels back on the bike, this is a good time to adjust brake pads or to replace them to make sure you have the best contact with the rim. My secret weapon for working on old V-brake pads or even cheap cantilever pads is to get a good nail file, something with a lot of grit. It is so much easier to work with that than it is just a piece of sandpaper in your hands. As a good rule of thumb, brake pads should be replaced every couple years, not because they've worn out, but because the pads themselves will dry out. Once your wheels are back on the frame, make sure that they're torqued to the right specs. If your wheel has quick-release levers, they should be tightened enough that it leaves a small mark in your hand and isn't too painful to close. If you actually have nuts or a locking axle, they should be tightened down fairly snug, but not so hard that they can't come off easily with a socket wrench. Adjusting brakes is really a matter of lining up brake pads, adjusting spring tension, and having the cables pull correctly. Ideally, the brake pads should touch in the same spot on either side of the rim, with the same amount of spacing between. All three of Milton's bikes needed several cables replaced. This is quite common, especially if they've not been done in some time. Forgive the over-explanation, but for those who are new to bikes, there's two different styles of housing that make a big difference in how something brakes and how something shifts. Derailleurs require SIS style housing, which is much stiffer. This makes for much crisper shifting, whereas brake housing allows for much more compression. Many department store bikes use brake housing on both shifters and brakes. While this saves them some money, it makes for very poor shifting. One of the more common replacements on a bicycle is the chain, and the best way to tell how your chain's doing is by using a professional chain checker. Most bike shops will do this for free. It has two pins that go in between links, and by torquing it left and right, it shows you how much slack there is between the pins. Anything beyond halfway worn out should be replaced. When it comes to lubing your chain, the most important thing to consider is that you don't want a dry chain, and you don't want a big mess. So, drop your gear down to the smallest cog, and rotate your chain through about 4 times. This should be sufficient to coat the entire chain. Whether you choose a wet lube or a dry lube style, it doesn't matter, so long as the chain is lubricated throughout the riding season. Alright, on to some final touches. For Milton's bikes, this was the first time they've been ridden in quite some time, so we replaced tires and tubes on 2 of them, and we did some upgrades to the grips and seats. I'd like to thank our sponsors of this video, Mark Cycling. They were kind enough to send me a box full of grips to help take care of projects just like this one. If you're looking for an affordable set of lock-on grips, compact bicycle tools, bar tape, or any other type of biking accessories, I'd encourage you to check them out. They've been a great partner for this project and for future projects to come. Well, it's been about a week since Milton picked up his bikes, and they went up to the Hiawatha Trail in northern Idaho. As Milton said, he was looking forward to some adventures with his sons and making some more memories, and they definitely had some adventures on the Hiawatha Trail. I'm grateful for this chance to collaborate with an old friend, and look forward to a number of collaborations coming up the rest of this year. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you on board, and I hope you look forward to next week's collaboration.